So this next part, what I really wanted to show you is really the nuts and bolts of what tools we have in here to help you in this journey. We do have another tool called Smart Connect that focuses more on moving data between systems. So again, more of the traditional integration or traditional migration. So if you were using your master records or again, even open transactions, that tool handles that. What we've been focusing on though is really how do I get at all of that history, right? That's not going to come in some of those standard processes. Like I said, the 5, 10, 20 year type history. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. And I'm going to show you a demonstration of this via PowerPoint. Here's what I'm going to show you. This is a tool that, again, is included with Popdock. So it's just a separate download. It does run on your network, so there's no need to poke a hole in a firewall or anything like that. But it allows us to hook into our GP data, and we can do two things with it. We can, with GP, we can either copy the lists or smart lists, right, from GP, and that includes not only the standard ones, but anything built with Smart List Builder or even Smart List Designer. Any of those can come over as well. We also have a secondary option, and I do recommend doing both of them because the second one is really the insurance policy. So the insurance policy is, saying, hey, while I may not use all these tables all the time, at least I'm comfortable that I have everything backed up into a data lake so that we can again, if we ever needed to, an auditor needed to look at the tables, we could go back to it just like we would have in SQL inside of GP. So I'm going to walk you through the process. You pick your first one. We're going to go into lists. You'll log into your Popdock account, and then you're going to connect to an Azure Data Lake. Now, I know we didn't spend a lot of time at the beginning of this talking about data lakes. It's maybe a term that may be newer to some of you. All you need to know is it's a cloud storage. So it's just something it's very, very cost effective. I'd say for most people, it's probably going to be, under $50 a month, maybe under $20, maybe way less than that. But it's a great way to store your GP data for as long as you need to access it. So that's probably all you need to know about Data Lake. We found a great way to optimize access to it, and again, just a cheap way to store. So I'm pointing it to my account. Again, you will do this too. We never store your data at E1. It's always something that will be in your account, so you have complete control over it. And then here's the important stuff, right? You're running this on premise, so you're going to point it to your GP server. We have versions all the way back to our GP9, I should say. GP9 is the oldest that we have currently. And if you find an older one than that, talk to us because we could probably work around it. We have to work around different smart list changes and stuff that happened over those years. So we have versions all the way from, like I said, way back to 9 to the current 18.5. You'll point to your SQL server, you'll point to a port, you'll point to your Dynamics database, and then you'll connect to it. After that, this is the fun part. You're going to see all of your GP companies. Now, why is this important? I know many of you out there have test companies. Maybe each one has its own test company, or there's, again, maybe you've done some development or things like that. For any reason, there's a number of reasons that you may not be using all of those companies. So the whole point of this is that if you don't want to archive some of those, you can uncheck them, and then they don't have to be archived. Now, this is the part where it gets down to which list you want to move. So most people probably just select all of them. These are all your smart list, and you can see by looking at a couple of these, like this first one, that's obviously not a standard one. That was one that was built with Smart List Builder. Or again, maybe if you have some that have some extender information or Smart List Designer or something like that, but you'll be able to choose each and every one of the smart lists that you want. And then you just hit the next button and it's going to start running through this. Now, here's the experience. It's going to tell you how many lists it's running through. So they're called SQL transactions. It's basically running, a statement against your historical GP database. It'll tell you how many are left, how many have been completed, but it'll also tell you any that have failed, any of them that have been skipped because there's no records in the table, and then yeah, I think that's the only other two statuses. And so here's an example. This is one of a little bit larger. You can see that it has my account transactions has 322,000 lines in here. So you can see what it's doing is it's grabbing the data from the database and then it's uploading it to the data lake for you. So it's handling all those parts again as efficiently as we can get it out and as efficiently as we can move it up. And then at the end of this, you're going to get the statuses. So it'll tell you that it was successful. Or in this example, you can see I have two distinct statuses. The red ones mean that these failed. And so these happen to have some kind of an issue. In this case, they were both had an extender window that wasn't in there. But you can see a lot of these other ones don't have any data. And so we skip that. There's a lot of tables in GP that if you're not using all of GP, maybe you're not using project or manufacturing or payroll or some of those kinds of things, those tables are not going to have records in them. So we have a way of just moving over it and not just copying up a bunch of blank records. And then maybe a key thing to point out is if you do have something that fails and it failed for a legitimate reason, we can choose to check them again. I'll give you a real world example. We had somebody that was moving a large amount of data and their internet connection went out. And so all of a sudden the lists after a certain point in time started failing. And so once they were able to fix the problem with their internet, they went through and ran those failed lists again and everything was good. So that's the part I wanted to show you inside of here. If I go back to this list, here's what I want to show you. This is the Popdock web application. And just to kind of bring things home, right? This is what everything comes down to. And so if we look at this, what we'll be able to see is we have the exact same type of interface inside of here. So if I click on this, whether it's embedded inside of Business Central or whether it's inside of this web application or somewhere else, you're going to get a similar experience. So this happens to be a special kind of list that I'm showing you. It is Business Central data in this case, but it is showing me more of the breakdowns. In this case, I'm breaking down by customer. I want to look and see when their transactions occurred. So I broke it into quarters in this one, or I have another favorite in here that is by monthly. And so we can do some cool reports like that with Popdock. And again, if we look at this one, you can see a breakdown of their total versus when they spent. So more of these analysis reports are in there. But the whole point I wanted to show you is that this same experience is there, the same way of doing the filters. That's in there, adding columns, sharing your favorites with. So you can see I could share this with other users or other teams inside of here.